right, welcome back, guys. I hope you're well. Sound should be good, and there should be no music this time, so should be pretty solid. So let's get into it. As usual, we are first having a look at my training. I just finished my first Ironman training block and 70.3 training block, so it's kind of 2-in-1, but I can go through it in details in the training. We always go through my Training Peaks account, the key sessions that I did, how it went, and everything that I've learned that went well, that didn't go well, those kind of things. And yeah, so we're going to start with that. Then we got a couple of questions, which I'm going to answer first. After that, if you guys have any questions, anything that comes up during the stream, or there's normally like a 20-second delay, so I kind of learned that now, that if I say something, it's not going to be instant. You guys see that 20 seconds later. Sometimes there's even some kind of commercial popped in between. So I know that now. So it's not going to be instant, although it's live. And depending where you live, maybe there's a delay. I don't know. But we're going to do our best. So I got a couple of questions, which I'm going to answer first. I'm going to get through those. But then I'm going to answer everything in the chat. Anything you have relating to niggles. I'm a sport physiotherapist as a profession. I did that for many years. With athletes and all that kind of stuff, mastered as much as I could that side, and yeah, now in the pro sport world, going to my first Ironman racing season, which will be exciting. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. Let's have a look at the training. Okay, so quickly gotta log in here. That's not me. Okay, so my training. Let's start at the beginning. So normally I always have 10 days. Most of you guys know 10-day blocks for a couple of reasons. Mainly consistency. I've done 7 days for years. I did 7 days a week straight. I did 6 days training, 1 day off. More or less all the models you would do that exist, let's say, with full working life. And now that I don't work per se as a job where you have to show up, I have online stuff I do that pays some bills, but that I'm flexible. So of course I got to be flexible. Number one importance is the sport. So let's have a look here. Where's day one? Yeah, that was day one here. Is that correct? Yeah, that's correct. Time flies. There I did here the hundreds first. So I have the hard day. Is still the first day is still some high-end kind of stuff, but otherwise I changed it. Of course, it's not this year-round season, which will be for me 2 hard days a week, where it's a VO2 swim, VO2 bike, and also 1 VO2 run in that 10-day block. This is kind of pushing the VO2 max or high end up, because yeah, in order to have the necessary thresholds to be really competitive at a world-class level and to have a shot at winning Kona, you first need those base level of physiology. I'm working towards that. And anyway, so what did I do here? So VO2 swim, or high end, what are you going to call it? So there's hundreds, 2 times 100 at 105, 4 times 75, straight into 10 times 50, 30, 32 seconds. That went really well, but I did notice there that because I was a few days skiing, there was some mobility stuff going on for sure. I could tell that shoulders weren't quite as mobile, or like especially spine. So if I have one takeaway for you guys that want to learn to swim, most of us are not swimmers. And the funny part is, because I don't hear that very often, for example, one guy, this Effortless Swimming guy, he has a YouTube channel. He grew up as a swimmer, is a good swimmer, and then started doing triathlon for a little bit, and he said his swimming got a lot worse. Not because of swimming less, just because of, cycling, shoulder, spine mobility, what happens to the hips. So that's something I have to do before every single session, that I have to reset, especially my hips and spine and shoulders, but I really in that order, I would say. So one thing I think that helps personally for me the most, and maybe for you as well, because one thing is in swimming, as you know, that's why 12-year-olds swim faster than us many times, is alignment. It's not strength per se, but they're well aligned in the water. So like a dart in the water, right? And let's say you're cycling a lot. Let's just look at, if this is here the head, and this is the hip, and here in the back is the feet. So this part in the middle oftentimes is, let's say you also, most of us or many have a desk job. Even if you don't have a desk job, you're going to be sitting watching Netflix for 2 hours a day on that couch or whatever, right? So like plus cycling and running also tightens up quads. So your hips are mostly going to be in some weird angle. Like if I stand, it's kind of like, you know, a little bent angle almost. Like, although you can stand straight and that does work, many times in the water it shows that you can't fully extend the hips, so that you can tense your glutes, so you swim with an angle basically. If the angle starts in your pelvis and your hips, what happens is it doesn't matter how much you kick, it doesn't matter how you're trying to force it, you're working against joint resistance, which is impossible to overcome, impossible, and also impossible to swim well, literally impossible. I can promise you, because if I don't do the reset, I can forget this session. It's basically, not forget, it's cardio stimulus still, but in terms of quality swimming and times, out the window, forget it. So it's not like on and off. In the past, I always had it, and I always wondered, I always look for this pattern. Why is it that some days I feel like, I really got this like alignment, I feel like my hips, you know, that the legs, you sometimes know maybe, and now the legs, they're just like floating behind, not like a resistance kind of like dragging. And that is the hips. So shoulders, important, sure, feet, okay, important. But number one is spine. Wait, I just hear the music here again. Is it still on? I gotta put the music off. I promised that I do. So now it's off. Because something was funny with the music, that some people heard it really loud and some people not at all. I don't know. Doesn't matter. No music now, just a musical voice of me and my German accent. So that's what you got. And so back to the pelvis and the hips. Number one stretch, forget all the theory now. Okay, we got to reset the spine and the hips. So number one, in whatever, not the order there, but 3 things I would advise you to try and see what happens is, number one is like the Cobra, you know, this Cobra yoga stretch. If not, you can Google or whatever, YouTube it, Cobra stretch. That's kind of extension for the spine, because you need, oftentimes our mobility of the spine is poor. So if that's poor or like stuck in an angle, you can't fully align, and the rest is then, doesn't matter what you do with your front end and catch and all that, completely irrelevant then. So alignment is first before all this other stuff. So that one, so the spine is a Cobra, and then you do the rotation. It's called also pretzel stretch. You can again Google it, Cobra, pretzel stretch. And number 3 is the glute stretch. Oh my God, I'm gonna try to show you. I actually do it against the wall. So imagine this is the wall in the swimming pool. I kind of sit in an angle, and then I put, oh my God, gymnastics live stream. I put my leg like this, and then I push this side here down. So this is what kind of mobilizes the joint a little bit, and also the hip. So basically the hip stretch, this classic one for the glutes and external rotators. Those 3, do those, forget shoulders and all the rest. Just do those first and see how you feel. Because if that one is not mobile, it's impossible to tense your glutes. It's impossible to have nice alignment, and yeah, doesn't matter what you do with your front end. So that's anyways my take on that, because it did work with me. Many times, that's the thing, even when you talk to swim coaches and all that, I did everything I could for years, and I was stuck at this 130 threshold in long course for years. And it's not because I'm pro now that suddenly like, I swim all this volume. That's what we people think, you know, that, you swim this volume now, and that, of course you're better because of that. Nothing to do with that. I'm not even swimming more per se. But it's the learnings and the kind of awareness. But yeah, if you have any other questions, good on tangent. Too much passion for the sport. Live stream is going to be 3 hours. Next one, I had the normal aerobic run, so I had a high-end swim, which went okay. First 100 was 105, 107, 75s got pretty hard. 50s then also pretty slow, just at 35, and that was mechanics, because energy-wise I felt fresh, but I felt like I was working against my own to do with a few days skiing before, not doing proper mobility before, not getting the tension of the skiing and all that out of me. Then I had a high-end bike. There I did the 2-minuters, followed into 18-minute sub-threshold stuff, so 330, 340 watts. But I think we had a little bit of that already in the past. Let's go a little bit further. So day 2 is an easy swim, 3K with some drills and some easy swimming, just quality strokes. Threshold run, 5 times 5 minutes. Legs were pretty toasty at that point, and at those 3 days anyways, I mentioned it I think in the last stream, or where was it, I don't know, I share quite a lot. It was energy, I just felt really poor for, I think I mentioned in the last stream last time, so don't want to repeat. Then day 3 was an aerobic ride, some mobility. Then I had a long ride here, so that was maybe interesting. That was a PB for me. As you see, a lot of comments, not towards my coach, towards me. It's for documenting. So in the past, I can look back to things and see what I did or what worked. If something worked and didn't work, I can look back. Why was it good, right? Because we want to have a pattern of excellence, or whatever you want to call it. You want to have a pattern of things working. So if you feel great in a session, don't just celebrate it and but think about why. Because you want to always feel great in a session. You're obviously not, but at least 8 times out of 10. Let's say, regardless of sports, let's say you can get yourself feeling great in let's say from 10 sessions, 7 sessions you're feeling great, just because of small habits, which takes 5 minutes, instead of 4 times feeling great out of 10. Especially in swimming, like I say, mobility is number 1. But don't tell anybody else. Nobody else is listening. Then we have here a 4.5 hour ride with 4 times 30 minutes, 300 to 320 watts. And now I know why I see this again, because I put this in a video. Déjà vu. But we can have a look at the data here. First 30-minute, there is 305 watts normalized power. That's pretty good. In general, heart rate dirt was very minimal. There you can see also 150 heart rate. So exactly what I have at 152 average. The last 40, all of them 305, 306. With feeling poor, so I chose the lower end, again a bit being kind to myself and just getting through it. But it went in actually better than I thought. Except the run, the run off went also well, you can say, because I also never did that. I ran 1 hour, 15.3 kilometers, which is 3:55 pace. Mile pace, oh my god, what was it? I put it in a video, 6:19, is it? Maybe not, 6:20, I believe, mile pace. You can do the math, 15.3 kilometers an hour, 3:55 pace, 2:45 marathon pace. That I did, but I did it, that's a bit the thought I had before, I did it on the treadmill indoors, because it's really slippery ice outside, it's impossible to run fast. There's this kind of running track, in other videos I put it, that I have close by, but not that close that it counts as a brick session, still 15-20 minutes until I would actually start running. So I really wanted to make sure I get a brick run in, see how the legs feel. So I did it indoors, and I wore the core measurement as well. The core sensor is like a core temperature measurement. I had one of the first ones actually, because it's a brand from Switzerland. I knew the guy that worked with them back then. So I was really early on that one and was really interested in it, and still am. And now everybody knows about it, of course. But that one, and also tried the Morton gels, so the 40-gram Morton gels, so 80 grams of carbs, and on the right also had 120 grams of carbs per hour for the first time. Just sugar, not Morton. The Morton drink mixes I just ordered, and they're actually just arrived, so I'm gonna try them next. And 1,000 milligrams of sodium I also had, and it was really hot. And my main thing was, it's funny, if you have that core sensor, you can kind of feel, because if you do a treadmill run, let's say a hard run, and you don't have a fan there, if you do an hour hard run, you're gonna overheat. And it's really interesting to see, to kind of put a number. That's why my numbers are cool. You feel at some point, at a certain point, you feel like, oh, it's controlled. It's like, you can kind of distinguish breathing wise, how hard is it? How are the legs, muscular wise, how hard is it? But then comes this other limit of fatigue, and that is kind of this overheating. You're going into heat training zone. For example, I started at 37.4 Celsius, which is kind of normal, and then 38.5, which is said to be the heat training zone, and you feel that. You feel that. Suddenly your body is like, it's a different level of fatigue, and that's cool, because you can kind of save this emotion or this perception of your body, so you know, ooh, okay, now you're going into a zone where you can't be too long. That's why people blow up in Kona all the time. It doesn't matter what the fitness is, if you don't hydrate or all those things. So yeah, and then I went to 38.9, but I still managed the pace, but that was feeling more like the last 5K of a marathon, just because of the heat. The legs were fine and stuff, so I'm happy with that. Then Then the day after, I had here a double run, again from the advisor I work with, who won Kona 3 times. I have it from him. 2-hour long run, easy. It was slippery and icy, so yeah, I just went by heart rate, super slow. What was it, 550 pace? Very slow, but also, icy snow. You couldn't really run clean. Did the best I could. So there, 2-hour easy run. Then a 2K flush out swim, just in between. Then a little core mobility before the run. That was actually gold, because that did a lot to kind of shake out the ride before, the day before, just like open up the joints that you're running on clean legs. And then I had treadmill again, so second run. So it was within 2 days, 46 kilometers of running, which I haven't done yet, which needed recovery after for sure, but it's a good stimulus for Ironman. So there was again 5 times 5 minutes at 3:55 pace. And that was on the track, on the run track there, because I can run it clean there. And how was it? Muscular-wise, wasn't too bad. Where is it here? I mean, pace is not accurate exactly because of the track there. But heart rate was really low. I remember that. 145 here, 149, 150 average, 50 average, 152 average. That is exactly where I want to have it, right? Of course, at that point, the heart is probably a little bit tired, meaning that heart rate is harder to get up, but I felt like not that kind of fatigue. It takes like it's still early in the block, so the heart is still pretty fresh. But if you, let's say, that's why it's cool to have 10-day blocks. I know kind of what, it's a bit from Niels van der Poel. Niels van der Poel? I always mix up the names. The speed skater, he has his cool block I talked about before. He had a 5-2 rhythm, so 2 days completely off, and he trained 30 hours in 5 days. For example, for this aerobic season, some of you guys know it. And he basically knew exactly how his, not even resting heart rate, but how low and how high the fatigue, how low his heart rate could get in pushing efforts on like the second last day of training, because he knew, okay, he would reset fully. And I have a bit the same system. That's why I have this, also leaned on this Niels van der Poel 5-2 rhythm in a sense, because I want to reset every 10 days. Like, of course, you're not going to reset 100% of fatigue. You're going to carry some over, especially in this Ironman block now. But like 95%, 90% is going to be gone. Because to some extent, I don't believe in this theory of this like chronic like model of like you train for months and months and you're so tired and you suddenly taper and you're like magic again. I don't know. Most people either get injured before or get sick. So sick I had. So that's what I'm avoiding with this. So far it's working. Okie doke. That was day 5. Then day 6, I had an aerobic swim. That was a really good swim again, because I did some mobility there again, reset. So aerobic swim, so not fully easy day, but an aerobic day and only 2 sessions, which then I recover a lot more, obviously, because the day after was again hard. So easier swim with 4.4K and then 10 times 200 leaving on 3 and 10 times 100 leaving on 140, a bit, not 130, not pushing it, just a little bit more rest. But really clean 120 pace, 245s or 244s, I think, for the 200s. So really just making sure, Alistair Brownlee, I heard that at one point that he aims to really, how easy can he swim? He called it 80 pace and 60 pace. So basically 80 pace is 120 per 100, that's 80 seconds. How easy can you swim that? And that kind of stuck a little bit in my brain, that I kind of keep that as well. Keep that in, so I just try to think, how easy can you swim that pace? And it's amazing to see this used to be my threshold, and now just pump out 3K on an active recovery day, yeah, you can say. And I pump out 3K at 120 pace, which long course without tools. So that is, I'm progressing. Then this one was cool. That was very cool. That was really fun. That was a bit late day. I mean, Instagram I shared it was a late day. So first I had some bike testing. That was in the last video. I'm not going to go into that. So what that basically told me in super short, LT1. So first threshold was at 300 watts, which is great for Ironman. And it was really interesting to see. Can I even show you the file? It's somewhere else here. Doesn't matter now. But it's really interesting to see, because sometimes I wasn't sure between zone 1, zone 2, because there's 2 theories. But now you have a bit of physiology behind it more. For example, either you do, because I could do right now 30 hours like anybody else. I could do 30 hours, but with more volume, of course, calorie deficit, you have to limit quality somewhat. So I'm more right now on the side of like being a lower in volume. I mean, with 10-day rhythm is anyways broken, but here I did, for example, 7 days, 22 hours with 1 day fully off. So yeah, I'm around the 23 whatever hour mark, but you know, it's quality, and I count swimming hours a bit differently. And instead of saying, hey, I just do like 2 hours, 3 hours easy zone 1 here, I do oftentimes, and that's the reason why LT1 is at 300. There's no other reason. My LT1 before was at like 230 watts for a long time, so real poor. And the only reason it's there is because I started doing the zone 2, I called it, and I started to kind of push a little bit. I knew it was still aerobic, but to kind of write more aerobic instead of zone 1, right? Yeah, I wrote zone 2 instead of zone 1. And instead of riding, let's say, 2.5 hours easy zone 1, which fat burning wise, from energy system wise, is of course better than a 90-minute ride. But the 90-minute ride I did, for example, at 260 watts for a long time, which was hard in the beginning, and still is not easy per se, but now 260 feels fairly easy. Used to be my Ironman pace a year ago or two. And yeah, now my LT1, I can feel like it's growing. I have to go to 270, to 80 to go to the same heart rate even that I had before. And I had a good chat with the physiologist as well about all the data, how to train further. But then here I had a bit, so there we come a bit into the threshold range, which is basically 70.3 pace, as you can see. So there I did 15 times, because I had the bike test, I just did 15, that was good. 15 times, leaving on 130, and I did them all in 113, and really like clean. I could, breathing wise, you know, I wasn't gasping for air. I was, of course, like, I was working, that's the idea, otherwise you swim too easy. But I could push the last two a bit more to 110 pace. Really happy with this, very, very good for me. And straight into, was it 4 times 500 with pull buoy and pedals, and holding that at 120, 118 pace, just like with fatigue. That was really good. And then in the evening, I still had 6 times 15 minutes big gear, 60 cadence. So that I did at 330 watts, I believe. Yeah. So there was that. Then, yeah, we're almost at the end here. So this, then I had a full day off. Then I had an easy day with a 1 hour easy run, an easy swim, 3K. And then today I had a 3K swim and a 2 hour easy ride. The reason why I put the easy ride in, because before I had now fat burning, before I had an aerobic ride there, even just an hour, this 260 watts, is because I saw in the data, for example, I had this graph of my fat burning. I don't want to show you, it's okay. But I could see that the fat burning rate is the same. So it kind of, if this is the line of my fat burning or fat metabolism, the line kind of went up at like 220. It stayed at one level, 220 watts. And that line stayed pretty much the same until 300 watts. And then it changed. So at 300 watts was my highest, it was my LT1. That's how they determined it with ventilation. And what's interesting with that, so basically what it's saying, at 220 watts and 300 watts, I'm kind of burning the same fats, which is good for performance because, of course, if you can only burn fats, let's say at 230 watts, you're kind of limited to that range for Ironman because otherwise you burn through your carbs and after 3 hours of riding, you're dead. That's why, but what's interesting, that's why I now actually can go back to giving a bit more, in this phase for Ironman training, volume is kind of still kind of king, right? It's really important. That I can use as well this 220 watt range. That's why I did that today, 2 hour riding. I can use that to stimulate the metabolism, but 220 watts versus, let's say, riding 2 hours at 260, 70 watts, it's a completely different sport from a muscle perspective, which for Ironman is also very important. So you gotta juggle those balls a bit in terms of what you need on any given day. And this is an easy day, so I knew I would have otherwise never run easy ride. Without that data, I wouldn't have done it. I would have ridden easy, which wouldn't have been wrong, but at this phase, I believe volume is still very important. Good. Yeah, then tomorrow we have a 400 and 200 meter little time trial, see where we're at, see what I can crack there in the long course pool. And then in the evenings, I have, if you guys saw the last video, some of you, 5 times 5 minutes at 400 to 450 watts, but 450 won't be realistic. We'll see what I can do. It doesn't matter even so much the watts, because they're still going to be fairly, not impressive, let's say, because as I said, I haven't done this for so long. I'm still really poor at this high-end stuff. That's why I train it. And yeah, the main thing is that I can really get my heart rate up, because at the moment my profile is kind of pretty flat, which for Ironman, okay, you can do one pace pretty long, but I can't change gears so much up and down, which you don't want that too much, obviously, but a little bit. You need flexibility in your metabolic profile if you want to be on the bike even competitive. So yeah, I'm gonna look for that, and also with 100 RPM, like higher RPM that I want to, because by nature I'm like a torque guy, so lower cadence, 75, 80 cadence, I'm really comfortable, can do that all day long. So 100 will stimulate again the heart rate in a nice way that, yeah, it will hurt, but more important than it will hurt, it will help a lot for me, even in this block, because of course classically you wouldn't put VO2 max or high end in an Ironman block, you would only do a threshold on those things. But I also checked this again with a mentor. I'm getting so many gains still from this stuff that stopping it. I just do it once times a week now, as you guys know. The second time is now this big gear work set, which is for Ironman important. And the rest is anyways aerobic. So yeah, the only one I do is anaerobic, let's say, is the swim, one is threshold, and one bike still. That is still anaerobic. And if I had a fantastic VO2 max, I of course would not do this right now. Maybe some surges to keep the surges up to high power a little bit, but otherwise I would just of course double down on volume and strength for Ironman and maximum thresholds. Threshold you need in that phase, lots of threshold, because you need to be, just don't think about just physiology, you need to think also that yeah, you need to race faster than race pace in your Ironman block, because if you only be at race pace, it's going to feel so hard, like you're not going to maintain it, just not. You have to be better at maintaining faster than race pace for quite a bit actually, and then race pace as well will feel easier. It's just a bit like, basically like the gym. If you can lift 10 kilos with dumbbells, 5 kilos feel easy, a bit in that sense. Okay, let's go. Again, babbled for a minute here, huh? But it's a lot of training, a lot to talk through. Okay, so somehow the chat isn't there, but well, I see it. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the questions. The first ones here, feel good. I don't know his name, but he wrote on YouTube. How would you pace your Ironman bike run? Based on what numbers would you go if your aerobic threshold would be 5 minutes per K running and 190 watts on the bike? So he means if his LT1, so his aerobic threshold, the first threshold, if that is 5 minutes per K and 190 watts. So if you are trained, you should be able to do those numbers, which again is easier said than done. I, for example, did some calculations with the carbs. I have like a system where I can pop it in, my numbers, my VO2 max and all that stuff. And from that I can calculate, I can even select the track. I can show you that at some point. I can calculate exactly what my carb emptying is. If I take that many carbs, can I run off or not? That's the theory. So if you're trained, you should be able to do this at 5 minutes per K and 190 watts on a bike. Maybe on the bike you can, let's say, again, it needs a lot of training to be able to do just that, right? To be able to perform those numbers up to your potential, it needs a lot of specific training. It isn't that easy. That's why people, yeah, don't perform it. It's hard, the training, to nail the specific phase. It needs, even at regardless what your thresholds are, it doesn't matter. So those numbers you should be able to do if you have done them, which I don't think, otherwise you wouldn't ask. Of course you could say, okay, with 120 grams of carbs, you could probably put the bike 15 watts higher to, like, instead of 90 watts, like 205 or something, maybe, okay. But that again has a price for the run, maybe. So depends all on your training, on your volume, on your quality, how much you run. If you do 30 hours a week, I would say, okay, you can go higher than that. You could run a bit quicker than bit quicker than the LT1 and ride a bit harder than your LT1. But it needs a lot of muscular strength and all that stuff. So Ironman is tricky. So I would say first nail those numbers before you think any further. What is the right frequency to check your power numbers and progress on a bike? Assuming I spend 6.5 hours weekly on a bike, meaning you would call a great progress. What would you call a great progress 3, 6, 12 months period? And when to worry and plan to change your approach of training if you don't see progress? How long? My friend spending 5 hours on a bike weekly in a Swift RAM test results stayed the same since October 2023. So is he doing something wrong? Yes, your friend is doing something wrong. October 2023. That's not too long. But if it's the same, you're not improving. So yes, you're doing something wrong. Why are you training? If you're not better 2 months after training, that's the funny thing, right? That's something I got talked in too much with coaches. This is so funny. You have to be ruthless. First of all, you're paying a person, right? Something in this weird thing happens in triathlon that somehow the triathlete often is like so type A and so self-reflective. Like when they have a shit race, they take it on themselves. Like most athletes, 99%, which is super luxury for coaches, but shouldn't be the case. It's like they don't take credit. They don't take responsibility. The coach should feel like shit. It's like at least 50% of the fault if that athlete fails. Around that, unless the athlete, of course, doesn't do exactly what was the plan, does something out of the ordinary. But otherwise, why do you pay the coach? You pay the coach to get you the training progress. So yeah, if your friend is buying if you're training 5 hours a week on a bike, and since October you have the same 305 FTP, yes, probably doing a little bit something wrong, unless you got sick or had a break in between. But like 5 hours a week is quite a lot. You should improve. So training is actually easier than many people think. As long as you have variety in your training, really metabolically, even if you do Ironman, that's the biggest trap that coaches go in right now, because many really don't know their stuff, unfortunately. That's the sad truth. Not saying that I know everything, surely not, 100% not, but many really just do aerobic. You can download a plan like that from anywhere, and you get like me, I'm a good example. You get metabolically flat. So when I started out in the sport, if I still had that coach now, she liked me short, hard stuff, even although the Ironman. And I qualified for Kona the very first time in Ironman Switzerland with the 9-hour 20. And 4 years before, I did the same course, 11 hours flat. And then I did 9 hours 20, 4 years later. She trained me. I worked full time, and I trained 10 to 12 hours a week. And I qualified for Kona on a hilly course. So, but I was metabolic flexible. I had already back then I had a 330 threshold thanks to her and the run as well. So anyways, training, don't overcomplicate it. Even if you train Ironman, don't just do aerobic. You gotta also have a high end a little bit in there. So you gotta mix it up. Have a phase where you do some aerobic, okay, but then go back to a phase where you kind of push short, quick reps. Then you have another phase where you maybe do longer reps, whatever it is. I hope that helps. So what would you expect in progress? Hard to say. It depends how much you train, 630 per week. But if you're training 6.5 hours a week on a bike, you should expect a pretty good progress. I mean, hard to say with numbers, but it starts in the mind, I think, with goal setting. So if you say, that's what I do all the time, right? As you see, that's why I put those numbers out there. It's a bit manifestation as well, but also like most people, I think in triathlon, they already fail with goal setting. Like, where are you going? What are you even training for? Just like, oh, I just want to do my best. No, you have to say exactly, and it has to be on the border or line of delusional, or like, let's say, what do you want to do now, or where your body is in a year. You have to pick something that even in, like, people don't know how to set proper goals. Like, they have to scare you a little bit. They have to get you out of bed. Like, oh shit, I'm not sure if I can do this. Like, if you're not feeling like that, your goals are probably too low, which is okay. If you just do the sport for fun, no issue at all. Enjoy the sport, do whatever is fun, and don't do sessions you don't enjoy. I said that before. But if your goal is to push performance, your goals have to get you out of bed. Like, oh my God, if I don't do this session, I'm never going to reach gym. A bit like that. Get some more questions. I saw you guys here writing, Sven and all those. There was a quick one. Katarina, thoughts on Norwegian method and testing? I think if we had a coach like Olaf, but that's why he has 2 athletes, because he puts 110% energy in. But if we had a coach, for example, like Olaf, with the attention span and knowledge and care, if all of us had that from day one, we would all be a lot better athletes. So that's what I can say to that. Because he's one of the few ones who brings the whole package. Mostly so I find him very impressive, but I also see that comes a bit with it. I don't want to criticize anybody, it's not at all, but I see also it's a bit the thing with coaches, and he has said a little bit that at some point you become a specialist for everything. And for example, he also then decided to become a specialist on orthopedic things, which he doesn't have a background in. And I can speak to that because I have a background in that. I couldn't speak to his physiology opinion. I think they're right, but I'm no specialist on that. So I wouldn't say, okay, yes or no. But when he says stuff about orthopedic stuff, I can tell he has gaps, significant gaps, the way he sees things. And it's a bit the problem when you have someone taking the lead on all things, it's difficult. But I think he's an amazing coach. It's totally legit, the whole system. So, and he cares. And he has one, that's one thing. And you have to understand the guy. He comes from the business world before. He sold a business. So when you're an entrepreneur, you have to have this dreamlike mentality, work ethic as well, but also like, oh my God, how am I going to make this work? Problem solving, and this kind of like no limit mentality. So most physiologists don't have this. So they have the data side, they're really in their numbers and like good, but leave me alone with the human side. But because of this business background, he has that, meaning he just makes up numbers, right? Those things where he sets his goal for, they're also delusional, right? That's why they do what they do, because I have him on board. He's definitely one that pushes that. So I could hear that out from him. So fantastic. Yeah, I think it's a really good system, which probably, if he would be on board, would work for absolutely every athlete, 100%. If he would care the same for all of, for those two as he would for you and me or something, I think we all be pretty damn impressive. So, but of course he can't, because it takes all his life to do that. Then Heikki asked here something about the race specifically, and then I'll go into the questions here. That's something I thought about as well, about the race dynamics. That's something we can talk about, the pro race dynamics. So he basically said, are you planning to go with the front in Texas until below or finish line, or race within yourself? The bike should suit you, blah, 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 blah. TV coverage, or some like, yeah, anyways. Race dynamics. Tricky one, right? One reason I was good at Ironman is, and I think that still applies, maybe more than before, is because I was patient. I was patient. For example, I remember this one year in Switzerland, I wanted to qualify again for Kona. That was the second time, I think 2016. And yeah, within Switzerland, then you know the guys. There was this one guy, I believe Matti he was called, a very good athlete, and he was back then already, he was sub 4, so really good speed, like sub 4 was back then in 2016. It was really fast for an age grouper. There were no carbon shoes, no aerodynamics like that, so that's very good. Very fast, very good and strong. And he kind of came to his first long distance. And of course, everybody would expect, okay, shit, maybe the Kona spot. So there was this internal competition a little bit, because normally I don't compare, but back then I still did. And anyways, you can control those things. But in the race then I saw, he then came by, he rode better than me for sure. But I saw him, then the first race, the first hill, I knew, oh, he's not going to be an issue today. Because he went up that hill, the first hill there in Switzerland, Ironman Switzerland course. Some of you Swiss ones know and watching know the hills. On which side was it? It was on the Gold Coast side, that hill there. I forgot the name. Where is Feldbach up there. And he tilted up that hill. He just went up there as it like over threshold, as if it would be like a 70.3. Even for 70.3, it would be hard. After that first hill, I knew, okay, he's probably not going to be an issue, because he raced it. He raced that race. And in Ironman, you can race metabolically, like not like that. And that's a bit the thing I can chat about now with the pro dynamics. Anyways, he blew up and he walked the whole marathon, and I did well. So again, I did well in Ironman because I was patient. And you still see it in every single race, not even in Hawaii races, even more in the pro races, because people are more impatient than ever, because you have these dynamics on the bike especially. If you are in that group, and even with legal distances, there's a massive advantage, especially for people, let's say, that are smaller and are dependent on being in groups in bikes. If they would be on their own, they would be out of the race, no matter how they ride. So they are even more like that. I mean, I'm going to be aiming for 315 watts. So in terms of raw speed on paper, I mean, I haven't done a course. It's rolling as well. There's some rolling hills, right, where watts per kilogram comes again in. But again, the downhill part, I'm going to have a 60 chainring from drag to zero. And yeah, downhill, the part, I'm very good with that. So it's going to be a lot of speed. So the thing is, when you look at the Ironman Texas course, for example, if this is the profile, Yeah, so this is the start, here's the end. What happens is it's a kind of a bit highway rolling, and it's a little bit up and down, at least what it looks like. And the second half is a bit more down. That's at least what it looks like. But it's a lot of rollers, and there could be wind as well, okay? But the thing is, it's a bit poker, right, in one sense. But the other sense, let's say I would sit here now and I have 10 years of professional racing in me. Forget the psychology, but like training. 10 years of training, 10 years of spending gazillion hours a week on threshold. You're so robust, and you did several Ironmans where you, like, let's say did an Ironman ride and you rode 90 minutes of that Ironman ride at threshold, and you still ran off that super well. All those things are experiences that are in your brain, in your body, that you know, yeah, well, I did that before. I know I can go with this. I did 90 minutes of threshold in Ironman before, or 70.3 pace. Of course I can do this. But, you know, if I go with every single surge, so I'm going to, of course, go with some surges in the beginning. And the hard thing is you don't know when they stop, right? It could be, for example, that there's 3 rollers, and the first 3 rollers, they all surge. And then the fourth one, you say, okay, I got to do my own pace here. Otherwise, I'm not going to have a nice run, because a lot of people have a good ride. They stay in a group and have a good first half marathon, and then they're dead. You know, each time, look at the finish times, they're not running that strong. How many times are running? How many people are running 2:45, 2:50? Not many. And they're all the heroes on the live stream in the beginning. But, you know, it doesn't matter. Nobody gets a medal or like a good contract or anything. Only the finish line is what matters. Only who arrives when at the finish line. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm going to do some surges, of course, but I'm going to stay within myself, because I know, of course, if I would be a horrible runner, then you have no choice. But I believe, yeah, I have a pretty good swim, and I hope that I'll be in the front pack. I'll do my absolute best. There I will tilt it. I'll go all out in a swim, basically, 100%. I can say that right now. I'll go max speed, what I have first 200, 100%, as if it would be a 200-meter race. And then I'm going to absolutely drill it, and then hopefully go and be in a group, and then hopefully be in that front group. And then from there, I want to make my own decisions. And yeah, of course, it would be nice to ride with a group. But if people start doing 500-watt surges 3 times in a row, then I'm probably going to jump out. Or because I want to have a 42-kilometer marathon, not a 20-kilometer marathon and then a shit show. So yeah, I just want to put together a good race for myself, and dynamics and all. But I'm just theorizing here. Could be a lot of different stuff happening. So but yeah, I'm not going to be ruthless and throw my training away and all the work I did by just doing stupid decisions. I'm pretty good at decision making, but of course you can make wrong decisions, because maybe a surge later, like I said, people stopped and chilled, and you decided to let them go, and now they're riding in a group, which is faster, let's say 1 kilometer ahead of you, and you stop because of the surge. So it's to some extent poker, right? But yep. Okay, let's go to the training, to the questions here. Sebastian was first. Hey, Sebastian, first of all, hi. I'm well, thanks. I've been trying a sugar, water fueling during training. Like it so far, but I've been getting gut issues when mixing between 50 and 80 grams of carbs into a smaller flask for runs. Yeah, that is pretty high. I can imagine why. Because probably the concentration is a bit too high for you. I don't know how small that flask is. For example, I have a running flask, and that is like, you know, those, what is the brand? Forgot the name. Those Nathan running brand. This is a running belt I'm going to use for the Ironman as well, by the way. And they're a maximum 60 I put in. I would never put 80 in. That is too concentrated. And maybe they zip it then too quick. So yeah, maybe the concentration is an issue. I wouldn't blame the sugar, first of all, I think. But I would first look at concentration. So how much liquid do you take with your carbs? So that's a classic one. If you get gut issues, it's not just, is the type of carb wrong, or the type of sugar, or the sodium, is that an issue? Too much sodium, for example. It's more the concentration. So play with the concentration a little bit. I'm sure if you had 80 grams in, let's say, a 750 milliliter bottle, or like a bigger backpack bottle or something like that, like a running backpack, I don't think it would have been an issue. If you zip small, if you take, again, you want small zips all the time, not like one huge chunk and then a 30-minute break. So yeah. Then another question: do you need a minimal volume of water to mix the carbs into? Minimal volume of water to mix the carbs into. I mean, as you saw in videos, maybe I half the bottle is full with water, then I smash the carbs in, at least half, maybe 3/4 full, then I mix it properly, and then I fill more water, and then I mix it again. So you need quite a bit of water in, maybe that otherwise sticks and gets too concentrated, yeah. But if you mix it in such a small bottle, it sounds a bit like I would also get issues. So it might be just that. So try a bit more liquid in there. Otherwise, take a gel, right? Because so concentrated in small, well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the body likes that. Otherwise, just take candy if you if you want that. What would you choose? 20 watts on your FTP or 10 points on your VO2 max? Ha! 10 points on my VO2 max for sure. But it's probably in the same range. Yeah, so right now I have VO2 max of like 65 or something, so not very impressive. I need to get it on the bike at least, but as you saw in the video, maybe the VO2 max was still rising. It was so frustrating because that's why I do those high-end bike and all this stuff, because as I talked about in another video, you have this peripheral limiter, which are like kind of legs and all those things, and the central one, which is heart and lungs. And for example, I remember the physiologist said as well, while I was cycling, was 450 watts. He said, yeah, VO2 is still riding. That means like you can still push more. There's no plateau. When you hit a plateau kind of with the breathing and cardio side, you know, okay, you're about to die, right? Not die, but like really collapse. But I was still rising. I could feel like breathing wise, I wasn't at my limit, but my legs were just shutting down. So they're not used to this. So you're only good at what you're used to. So that's a bit the thing. If you only do aerobic training, and then you suddenly do a FTP test at a range, even muscular-wise, that you never do, I don't know how good you're going to be. So, what's your favorite of the 3 sports in triathlon? I like them all. I really like them all. Of course, I didn't grow up swimming, but from day one, I never thought about, I always developed a healthy relationship with the sports. Even if I'm frustrated in one area, I always talk positive about it, because that's how it starts. I hear some other pros, even Keenly, for example, he talked about it. He always says the way he talked, just from wording, forget, I have no idea what he did in training, but just the wording, how he talked about swimming, I'm not surprised that he never broke through in swimming per se, because you need a positive relationship. If you say, oh, it's going to suck swimming, how are you going to improve? Never going to improve. So even if you don't like something, you got to be your own best cheerleader, right? You got to find ways to make it tasty and trick your brain, and don't allow negative words and spirals in your brain to manifest and to kind of stay there. You got to get rid of them and replace them with positive stuff, always. That's basically what will happen in the race, right? Ironman, it's going to be a long talk in your brain. And if you don't find ways, and you haven't practiced before positive self-talk, and even if you have, it's going to be an absolute challenge. So haven't done an Ironman in a minute, so that day is going to be challenging. But yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? You have to be your best cheerleader and be positive. So in your previous video, you mentioned you would be trying to get sick less often this season. Which supplements have you been taking to boost the immune system? Very good point. I've been using Cincino, the Norwegian brand. Yeah, I know some big football clubs that you for sure know, and a lot of elite athletes that are really good. Wouldn't be surprised that Norwegians actually also use it. It's a Norwegian brand, so yeah, really good. Cincino, can check that out. Really good product, really clean, anti-doping, super important. Anything I take has to be checked that it's 100% clean, right? Number one, also for you, for age grouper, same stuff. How do you act on fatigue score in training peaks? Are you flexible and just training? Sven, yeah, good question, Sven. What you mentioned there, I think, is a bit the same thought process I had as well. So you think kind of the data will save you from yourself. I have news for you, Sven, the data cannot save you. No HRV, because I was like that. I was like, and to this date, even the top coaches, they also say, HRV and all those things, that's why I say, for example, this Olaf guy is a great coach, because he also works with RPE and body feeling. What does it feel like? What does threshold feel like today? When I heard all those things, like, oh my God, this guy got the whole package, right? So he's, you just see this lactate side, lactate, but he brings the whole package. And so you have to learn from that, the Norwegian podcast. You can check it out. It's a really good podcast. Everybody can learn something there. And so that's what I'm saying. Don't rely on the numbers too much. So the numbers can help, and there can be patterns, and I use them a lot, obviously, as you know, as I talk here a lot about numbers. But the body feeling and perception is number one. But again, I think something I didn't do before, I have now this like an Excel. I made an Excel here every morning, fill it out. You can see a little bit like that. It's a bit like that. So there I have my date, sleep, soreness, motivation, mood. I said it before, resting, heart rate. Also did objective stuff. And then it looks a little bit like this, you know, sometimes it's green, sometimes it's yellow. And then I look, where am I at? Because you have to kind of rationalize emotions. If you just wake up, how do you feel today? Oh, I feel tired. Yeah, well, what are you going to do with that? Yeah, you're training for triathlon. You're probably working next to it. Of course you're tired. So you got to somewhat objectify that, what that tiredness number is. So like, for example, one would be from 0 to 10. How tired are you? I have that here, fatigue level. When I wake up, 0 to 10. What am I hitting? Is it supposed to be there? Let's say, are you one day out from your rest day? Is it okay that you're that tired? Or is it like out of the ordinary? Then you should react. So that's why I'm not replying too much to this score and Training Peaks, because stay flexible and listen to your body. Everybody says that, but I believe unless you have a system, you're not going to listen to your body eventually. Because I was like that. Because you have your goals. You pay a coach. He puts the training plan for you. So you think that training plan is going to be magic, but that training plan doesn't have your life stress in, your wife or your kid suddenly getting sick, all that stuff. So in the end, it's all on you. Bad news. It's all on you. Nobody can save you. You got to save yourself. No data, no Aura ring, no nothing will stop you. If you want it, you will get injured or sick like I did. That's why I need to objectify, get a system so I don't push into that fatigue, because we are always tired. We do 3 sports, you work full time, you have a kid, of course you're tired. So objectify the emotions, I would say. Francisco, hope everything is good. Yes, I'm good. I hope you also good, Francisco. Thanks for watching. I currently had a bike fit where they raised the stem and a few other modifications using Retul. I've been having a bit of pain in the hip ever since. Should I adjust load or speak about it? Yes, I would say if you really can clearly date it back to that and no other changes, you have to kind of check, hey, were there other things that could have maybe caused it? Did I have a slip somewhere? Did I fall somewhere? Did I have new running shoes? Did I do anything else? Suddenly sit weird at work or whatever you do? If none of this happened and you said only that is a cause, you got to check it quick and do not ride it anymore until you fix that. So I'm not a bike fitter. I couldn't give exact, accurate tips, although I know a little bit about it, but I'm not going to play bike fitter here. And that's what I mean. I'm not going to play like I know everything. The people, for those you have, that's what I want to say, they have to be careful. If you have a coach or like any person, an advisor, no matter what, if you get the impression that person is talking like he knows everything, that's a red flag. You got to run the other direction right away, because the more you know, then you actually know that you don't know so much. And if they don't say, I'm not sure, I got to double check that, that's a red flag for me, for coaches or in general people that are in an advisory role. So if they never say, I'm wrong and those things, you got to run. Max yesterday wrote a brilliant post about manifestations. Can you recommend a good book or podcast to improve mindset? Thanks, Max. Mindset. One is Stephen Pressfield. He has really good books. I think I said it once before. Super interesting. Stephen Pressfield. You will find it just like it says, American author. He has a few good books. You can just take the top 3 popular ones. Really good. You will like those if you like the post. Okay, doke. Hello, Maxi Alka. Hello, it's my first DM here. I'm really confused about what happened to my calves. Okay, I think you gotta be more specific with that. But if I can help you with anything, you can just shoot me a message. You can also write me on Instagram. Maybe can help you there. But whatever you got going on, make sure you check it. Most, let's say, calf pains, Achilles, at least, let's say around 50%. Even that's where most people want to look. But if you have a good physio or osteopath, he will look right away there and not start dry needling your calf right away. 50% of calf issues are around a low back area, pelvis. Start there. So a good chiropractor will fix it and no issues. So if you suddenly get calf issue, don't just think, I've been running more and that stuff. It's for me the case all the time. So if my calves get too tight, I know, whoops, my low back is tensing up. I need to loosen it, go to chiro once, boom, calf tension gone. So yeah, but that's a bit the thing. Last question from you. A few days ago, I did a 3K all out just to see my current fitness level. The next day, I felt my calves and it was worse. Today, I could barely walk. Pain is super over. Yeah, maybe you had a little bit of you maybe overdid a little bit there. Maxi Alka, sorry, don't know the name exactly. Maybe you have a little bit of a calf muscle strain. That could be, because if it's more than sore, you got to be careful. It's maybe a little bit of a muscle strain. Maybe even pull the muscle if you felt it kind of really like go a little bit. Either way, number one is don't run, and number two, go to a specialist now. Don't just wait 3 weeks and let it linger and start running. It doesn't go away. Go right away. Be quick with those things. Your health first. So go see a physio or a doctor. I mean, doctor, what is he going to do? Not too much. Can give you painkillers. So go to a physio straight. He can do some body work in that sense, and give you some tricks what you can do, and give you advice on your training, what you should do now, because I can't give you advice on that, obviously. It's a tricky, the human body, but go seek out a specialist, get it checked out. And yeah, I think we are at the end here. It's been an hour again. Holy cow. Yeah, I think we are done here. Last question. Could shoes be responsible for this? Yes, 100%. Before you check with shoes, not just shoe brand, check the drop of the shoe. So for example, if you have drop is the front to the end, how much it differs the shoe, so that between heel and front in millimeters. So for example, if there's an 8 millimeter drop, that means between the front of the shoe and the back, let's say, it's 8 millimeters, so the angle is 8 millimeter. Nike has often 8, 9, 10 even, somewhere like that. Alpha Fly is around 8, 9. And for a reason, because it deloads the calf and Achilles. It's very good for injury prevention. That's why having a flat shoe for me is not so great. So like 4 millimeter and stuff like that. It depends on the shoe brand. Some shoes do it really well. But if you have been running always, let's say, in 4 millimeter drop, and you suddenly get a completely different one, that could mess up your calves completely. But you did a 3K all out before you got, could be shoes as well, but it sounds like classic overload. Mostly it's not that complicated, unfortunately. So go check with a doctor, and yeah, I'm heading out. Tomorrow is another big day. Again to the lab, actually another test, a little bit like running. Not running per se, it's for the study as well, but a hard swim, and I said 5 times 5 minutes the bike. So a tough day tomorrow, still got to do a lot of eating, and yeah, then I'll check in with you guys next week. I hope you're well, and see you soon.